Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, figures show that there has been a 50% spike in demand for hair transplants in Ireland in recent years. While there were hair transplant options available for men in Ireland, many were cost prohibitive, resulting in clients seeking transplants abroad. But through his own transplant experience, Richard Spence identified an opportunity to make hair transplants affordable in Ireland and co-founded Grow Club. Richard, Grow Club has recently secured a €500,000 investment, but before we discuss that, I'd like to hear about your own experience in the beauty and cosmetic space.
Good morning, Karl. Thanks for having me. I originally studied marketing back in DIT. It was a Trinity marketing degree, and I specialised in entrepreneurship. And after that, I kind of went into a few different sales and marketing type of roles in my kind of early career. One of the first ones being L'Oreal, which is kind of my first foray, if you like, into the kind of salon or clinical space, which actually inspired my other business, Digital Salon, actually. I suppose since then, I'd always kept kind of quite a close eye on it. But over the years, I moved more into sales within the tech space. I spent 8 years in Cartroller, which is kind of an Irish tech success, really. I was in head of sales or COO in a teledentistry business. So kind of over the years, technology, sales, marketing, but always had a keen interest in the wellness space.
Take us back to when you first spotted a gap in the market for a business like Grow Club.
It comes from my own experience, actually. So I actually had a hair transplant done about 12 years ago in Ireland. And, I remember thinking at the time that for the cost that I spent, that the experience was very underwhelming. And, in hindsight, I'm happy I did it. But I definitely felt that when you spend that money, everything almost about it should have been better. And I started looking at this again then about 5 years ago about getting another one done. And I saw that really patients these days had two options. They could either go to Turkey and have this done for kind of a fraction of the price of it being in Ireland, maybe €2,500, or they could have it done at home, and it was incredibly expensive. So I suppose it was my own kind of searching for a solution for myself that kind of helped me find the space.
And why have hair transplants been so expensive in Ireland for so long?
In Ireland, I suppose there was only a couple of players, really. There wasn't that many clinics or doctors offering it as a service. But when you look at actually the costs involved, in Ireland and the UK, a lot of the clinics use contracted medical staff, which actually cost a whole lot more when you're paying per treatment than if you hired people full-time. And I suppose my background in technology, I suppose understands the value of hiring full-time teams, having them working together on a daily basis, and the benefit that gives to the end customer, and in this case, the patient. So by hiring a full-time team, it helped us massively reduce the overhead that a lot of the clinics would have between Ireland and the UK. And then the other major cost that a lot of the clinics have is real estate. And again, in whether it be London or Dublin, a lot of the clinics focus on putting their clinics, and huge clinics in some cases in Ireland, in the most expensive parts of the whole country. So when you look at kind of pulling back on some of those costs, you can actually offer this service to the patient at a much reduced price, because ultimately there's no cost of producing the raw material of the hair, and a lot of the clinics kind of are pricing per graft. So I suppose what we tried to do is kind of look at these main costs that the clinics had, take them out and offer this and package it to the consumer in a far easier to understand and less expensive way.
So provide us with an insight into the business model that underpins Grow Club.
Yeah, well, I suppose, the key thing here really for us is about reinventing the patient's journey, I suppose, making it affordable and convenient. I suppose there's a couple of things that we'd kind of see ourselves being different, or why our concept would be different. And there'll be, if you look at everything from the look of our business, the branding, the experience that we would offer a customer, it would be more like a spa experience in a hotel, I would say. And it's even been said by patients that it was more like a spa day. But even like when you consider what other clinics would charge to kind of start the process, it's often quite slow. It might take 3 or 6 months to actually have a consultation. It needs to be done in person. It's usually quite expensive. And again, we just wanted to try and make the whole thing a lot more efficient and a lot easier for the customer. Virtual consultations, making them free, having everything done within 24 or 48 hours to get into the process. Getting to meet the doctor, pickups, drop-offs. There's so many elements to the experience on the day, And then you got the 12 months of aftercare that we'd offer. So I suppose like our whole business model is around providing an incredible end-to-end experience, but at an affordable price. And when I say affordable, not only is it kind of maybe 30% of what some of the other clinics are charging in Ireland, but it's also you can pay it to finance.
And Richard, who have you identified as your ideal target market?
It's a massive market, and actually initially when I launched this, the idea was we'd be targeting men only, I suppose, because that was the market that I was in. It's a huge business already, due to grow massively in the next 5 or 10 years. 85% of men would experience hair loss by the time they're 55. So that was kind of the market that we were focused on. Some guys don't care, but the research shows about 70% of the guys who do lose their hair do care and are actually negatively affected by it. So that's kind of our core market. Now, having said that, interestingly, we've had a lot of female patients come to us, which is kind of a market that I didn't even know existed much at the start. But it's something that we'll kind of maybe evolve our offering over time and target the kind of female market a little bit more.
Now, I know that your plans are to expand this business across the world, but there's 100,000 people approximately travelling from Northern Europe to Turkey for hair transplants per year. How much of that market do you think is realistic to capture?
Yeah, there's about 100,000 going to Turkey each year, and driven mostly by the cost. And I totally understand that. Not all the providers over there are necessarily bad, but obviously when you have 600 providers in the likes of Istanbul, it can be quite hard to choose the right one. So really what we, I suppose, wanted to try and do was offer our service at a price that, almost like the lowest price that we could charge in Ireland. But I think it's close enough to what people are paying in the likes of Turkey when you include travel and spending money and so on, that when you consider the upside of having your 12 months of aftercare and having it done at home without the need of travel, we feel that we can probably take a huge portion of that market.
Grow Club recently completed a €500,000 funding round, with Pat Phelan from Sisu being one of its backers. So how do you expect that Pat will be able to benefit the business going forward?
I think having Pat on board is incredible. From the early days, I kind of had my eye on potentially having somebody like Pat involved. He's done it all before with Sisu. The businesses are incredibly similar. The money is obviously great, but I think having the know-how and the contacts and just the experience of having done it all before is invaluable. He will have made all those mistakes himself along the way and be able to guide us. So for us, having him is just an incredible coup.
In terms of international expansion, you have plans to open 100 clinics globally by 2027. What does this roadmap look like?
The focus at the moment with the 500,000 is just to get our first 10 clinics open. Obviously, we've one in Ireland. We have two opening in the UK over the next couple of months. But the plan would be to get 10 clinics open in the UK and then reassess. There's lots of English-speaking markets initially that we have our eyes on. But right now, our focus is on getting it right and getting the offering right, really, in Ireland and the UK.
And Richard, ultimately, are you building this company to keep it or to sell it?
It was actually the owner of Car Trawler said to me one day that you never build a business to sell, but if you build a good one, somebody will want to buy it from you. So I think if we can focus on doing things right, no doubt in the future we'll have people interested. But I think it's such early days. Like we're only a year into our first clinic. Everything's going great, but I think there's a long road ahead before we could consider anything like that.
Finally, broadly speaking, what are the trends that are coming down the track in the beauty space that listeners and entrepreneurs need to keep an eye on?
In our space, I mean, like there's been a lot of talk around kind of robotic hair transplants. There's a number of kind of machines out there that do this. We've looked into it. For us, in this space, we feel that the artistry of hair transplantation is just something that machines can't do yet.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Richard Spence from Grow Club, and I've no doubt that its growth trajectory will reach heady heights.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.